Hey folks, welcome to the View podcast, the return of the View podcast that had been cancelled in March. People have asked for it back, so it's back. It's back for summer at a minimum, and we'll see how it goes. From there, joined by some nice people, as always, some very, very good people. We've got Kev below me, who is from Not Another Leeds podcast and Leeds House. Kev, how you doing, mate?
I'm good. How are you, Joe?
I'm all right, man. I'm all right. I'm all right.
Good.
First one got brown noser. First one got in with,
Right,
how are you, Joe?
How are you, Max? Max from Leeds lately also over here. Max, how are you?
I'm all right, thanks, mate. Yeah. Looking forward to the future now that we've got what happened last week out of the way.
Yeah, it's been a busy week. We'll get to all that bits and pieces, but it's been a busy week. And we've got Paul from Leeds Therapy in the bottom corner, the man who's being consistently described as the best voice in radio that's not in radio. Paul, how are you doing?
I'm doing very well. I now feel really awkward, but I'm doing good. Thank you. I'm over everything now. I'm pushing forward and ready to get on with next season.
So that's a really good question. Have we gotten over it? How are we feeling?
I always thought it was destined to happen. The thing that made me believe was that we actually got through a semi-final. But as soon as we got third place, I said to myself, and I said to everyone around me, everyone who asked, I said, well, we had a good run, but let's go for it again next season in the championship, because I just knew that we weren't going through the playoffs. I started to believe that when we went 4-0 and smashed Norwich, I was like, oh, well, it's destined to be now, isn't it? And then, nah. But yeah, it was a very Leedsy thing to do, to give you hope and then crush it.
You should know better. You should know better.
I should.
Paul, have you got past it?
Yeah, I was past it pretty much the next day, in all honesty. It was cathartic because I got to sit on with Joe and we talked about it after the game and everything. So you kind of got it out of your system just by having a conversation about it. But yeah, I'm over it now. I'm done. I'm finished. Listen, at the end of the day, there's still hundreds of teams talking about us and taking the mickey out of us. It just means that we're absolutely massive. So I don't really care what anybody says, to be honest with you.
Yeah. A lot more talking about us tomorrow as well.
Yes.
But all the news has come out now. And Kev, how are you feeling about things? Are you okay, or do you still need some time to digest what's happened?
I think after day after, I was sitting there with a stinking hangover. Honestly, I was probably the worst I've felt in a long time. And also, I was a bit down in the dumps. But the past few days, the banter from my workmates seems to have subsided a little bit, getting there now. And then the news that seems to be coming out has uplifted me a little bit. Obviously, there's caveats to that. But yeah, I just look forward to next season now. How many days? There can't be that many days till the season starts, yeah. Good.
17 hours.
15 days till the window opens. That's the real kickstart of it. And then the fixtures are out as well. But I think the Sky date's coming out this year with the first month's schedule, so we'll know the Sky dates earlier than we have done.
We'll be on every week anyway, yeah. So
we will be on every week.
That's the new deal. Everything will be shown pretty much every single week, over the course of the week. More midweek games televised as well. I think Leeds are guaranteed a minimum of 29 games. I think last season we'd already done over 30, so we'd set a record last year. So it'll be probably close to the 40 mark this year. But yeah, wait and see. But
yeah,
you always underestimate how massive we are, and then go, "Oh, we need to put them on the TV anymore." It's like the only time anyone actually watches us. So
yeah. So Sky, we're funding Sky secretly behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Usually the case.
But he also puts on at the most inopportune times as well with Leeds, though. We don't get enough rest. We're always on telly, and they know what they're doing, in my eyes. I don't want to say it's a conspiracy, but
it's conspiracy.
We're only 4 minutes in.
Yeah.
It's a new season, it's a new podcast, and it's a conspiracy straight off the bat.
In one of the other podcasts that I watched, that they said that the downfall to our season came about, and it's one of the things he said. I don't care if I come across as conspiracy theorist, but it was on the One Leeds channel, and it was the fact that we played Monday and then played Friday in that week.
Yeah,
and it was just. There's conspiracies abound all over the place, isn't there? But it is what it is.
Well, do you know what? Of all the conspiracies, that's probably the least insulting of the conspiracies, because you've essentially got Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday between games. That's it. That's all you've got. It's tough, and especially after international break and after the amount of games they went through this year. I mean, I think the Square Ball had said it. Outside of 3 players, nobody else had played over 30 games in a season in their career. And then they come and play 46 games in one season. Like, it's an additional 16 games.
Poor Archie Gray hadn't even made his debut until this season, and now he's a seasoned veteran.
50 appearances under his belt now already. He's got after his first season. And Charlie Cruz getting international call-ups for the full setup at 17 years of age, so which is crazy as well. But yeah.
I bet Sam Byram just weeps when he looks at a championship schedule, because he's thinking, I'm not going to just play that one. I'm not going to play that one, just like that all the time. Just
he probably likes it. He probably goes, oh, so I have to just play half of these. Yeah. That's pretty good.
I think Sam Byram's going over to Archie with his MRI scans going, this happened to me because I played those games when I was your age.
Possibly.
Look at my knees. Look at them now.
Yeah. Overcooked ham hock, that's what they're going to look like, aren't they? Where the meat's just falling off them. That's what it's going to be like.
Yeah. Under Sam's kit is just an awful lot of reinforcement and bolts and sticks and bits holding them together so we can get through games. There's a pulley system. Someone on the sideline with a pulley system to get him running on the sideline. Yeah.
Never seen the bloke on the roof with the marionette strings.
Yeah, that's what he is.
That's Sam Byram. Yeah, that's his agent doing the work for him. When they say hardest working agent in football, they mean it. There's a lot of stuff to talk about that's come up this week. The idea of the podcast will be to cover the news of the week more so than matches, but there's a ton of stuff. I was worried at one point this week that after missing out, all the talk about potential signings would go out the window and we'd have nothing to talk about. And then lo and behold, Paraag does his first media address, and there's a ton of stuff to digest out of that. And then they announced that Red Bull are buying a small stake in Leeds and will be a shirt sponsor for next season, a 3-year deal. And we'll unpackage all of that. It's just been a very info-packed week, and I wanted to get into this, and I wanted to start off with the Paraag Marathe interview. And Kev, I wanted to start with you on this. What were your thoughts on an end of season interview? We've had lots of owners in the past who have needed a vehicle to have an opinion. Paraag's kind of shied away from it. He did the initial podcast last year. He didn't talk about anything at all during the year until this media interview where he's been interviewed by everybody nearly in one go. He's answered a lot of big questions. What was your overriding thoughts of the interview after you heard it?
Well, it's nice to have an American owner who doesn't want to be the biggest character of the entire team. It's fantastic. It comes across really well. Paraag, everything he says is just was spot on in my eyes. I know there's a lot that we need to unpack and go through, but the way he backs the team, the way he backs managers, and one of the things that I loved the most about his first interview was that back Daniel Farke immediately without any hesitation at all. And you've seen these owners over the past few weeks won't even talk about their manager in the public eye to anybody like that, just because they know they don't want to say if they want to get rid of him or not. Like with Pochettino, Ten Hag, it's happening all over the place. And then for an owner to come out and just go, yeah, this is our man, we love him, let's just keep him for a bit and then see what happens. But yeah, it was brilliant. It's really, really good. And he's just, it's just lovely to have a guy that just doesn't want to be centre of attention all the time. It's fantastic. Love it.
Describe Daniel Farke as his partner,
which
was an interesting word to use as well.
But you want symbiotic relationships in football. So if them two are going to keep working together like this, then yeah. I mean, and the way he kept going on about 90 points as well, he is right, to be honest. I know you can use it as an excuse, but last 20 years would have been promoted, 18, 19 times? So
yeah, it was only one.
Can't shy away from that. Yeah.
What was it? Sunderland in 1998, I think, were the last team that got 90 points and didn't get promoted. So I take that point, and this is a point I've been putting to people as well and saying, look, people are going, well, you haven't got to play what's in front of you. Yes, you have, and they were better than us overall, and you've got to say fair play to them for getting more than 90 points and going up. Because whilst you'll say, oh, we bottled it, we had all those moments to go up at the end, they were also falling over themselves, stumbling, like they had the shoelaces tied together. All of them, it could have been any of us that went up, any of the three of us that could have went up in the end. Or sometimes it's just luck of the draw, and I genuinely believe that, because over the course of the season, all three of us deserve to go up. And it just didn't work. You've got to look at it philosophically, because if you instantly go, oh no, terrible, should have done this, should have done that, you're just going to make yourself sad about it. So just like choose to be positive and go, do you know what? If we can replicate anything near that season again, we'll be up. And Paraag said, I know people asked him about certain players. He said he can't give any specifics on players. I think he's obviously just trying to protect his own neck a little bit and the club's neck to a certain extent. Because if he says, yeah, we'd love to keep hold of Archie Gray, which the club obviously would, and then he gets sold because someone comes in with a ridiculous offer, it's just a stick to beat him with. So he just wants to make sure that he doesn't say anything that can get him. He's the opposite of Jesse Marsh in terms of what he says to the media. Jesse Marsh would say everything, and then everybody would have pitchforks and sticks to beat him with.
Sorry, it's more like everything.
Yeah.
But that's interesting, Max, because he does say in it. I should say Daniel Farke's end of season interview. He said about the relationship with Paraag. They like the fact that I don't over comment on things. I don't say more. When the 20-minute tirades about myself and go, are you talking about anybody else by any chance, Daniel? Because it kind of sounds like you are.
Yeah, it does. It did sound a bit like that, didn't it? And maybe that's just something that they've learned. Obviously, it's not even just about Jesse Marsh as well, is it? Because of all the things that he said, because it was also Radrizzani going on Twitter and talking a little bit too much in the public eye. Allardyce, everyone.
A red lines.
You keep forgetting he's been there for 6 years, Paraag Marathe hasn't he? He's been there for a long time. He was there from, obviously, when we, I think he's been there since the first playoff when we lost to Derby, if I'm right, correctly. And he's been there since.
It was 2018, wasn't it, when they came in? I think.
They brought in first, yeah.
But
so he knows what to do.
No, we joked about it when they first came in, saying, as in when they first took over permanently and in a full capacity, we joked and said, oh, they've been learning what not to do for the last. Obviously, they got some things right, the previous ownership. Yeah, of course they did, but just you know what I'm saying. Over the last 6 years, they've been learning what not to do. By speaking too much in the media, by doing these things, and we're starting to maybe see, oh, look, this guy's doing the opposite of what was done before. And I think that can only really be a good thing.
There was a couple of points that he made in his interview at the end of the season where what was quite clear to me was that he made mention of, like, sort of over the last kind of 12 months or season that they'd really started to get to grips with everything, which really kind of spoke to me and said, look, we really were a silent partner in the background, and we didn't, although we knew what was going on, we didn't have the full ins and outs of what was going on. And it's taken them almost a year to kind of get to grips with that. And I think they've done a phenomenal job over the last 12 months, but it was a little comment about credit card bill that he made in the interview that kind of made me go, yeah, that's not great, is it? So the credit card bill that had to be satisfied because Rads was out just whipping it about all over the place for everybody. It was just, like I said, just little things that he said and touch on what.
Just talking about a credit card here. Or
I was going to say things to not say in public.
Yeah, sorry. So yes, so it was right. You've really made me lose my thought now. I was off on the tangent then. No, it's fine.
The credit card. The credit card.
What was it? Where was I? You've really thrown me. Thanks. I really appreciate that. I just think
I'll clip it out. You'll be all right. You were talking about the fact that he had said the credit card bill had to be satisfied, that he'd thrown in the comment around the credit card bill.
Yeah, it was just to me. It just seems quite apparent that they didn't, although they were there in the background, they had no say whatsoever that was for what to do, how to do it, and what should be done when and where, and all of that kind of stuff. And then having to watch Rads do what he did, I can imagine him sat there in the background going, Jesus, this is terrible, because you're coming from a group of people that have run or been involved with franchises, and the way that franchises need to be run to be able to be kept profitable, making money, doing the right thing, bringing players in, contracts, all of that kind of stuff. It just seems incredible to me that they weren't lent on for their experience in that.
Can I just play devil's advocate, though, for a second on that? Because whilst I don't believe this, but I don't know what I believe, because you can't always tell what's true and what's not when these people say things. What I think is, if I was in Paraag's position and I'd been a bit part player, as you would say, over the last sort of 6 years in what had been eventually a failure in ownership, I wouldn't then go, do you know what? We were just as culpable. We made just as many mistakes as they did. We were part of messing all that up, because then the fans go, oh, so it's not really a new ownership. It's just more of the same things that went wrong. What I would do, even if it wasn't true, perhaps, which might be a little bit naughty, is go, do you know what? We were sat in the background, or make it out like that. Say, you know what? We were sat in the background. We didn't really have a say, but now we can do things the right way. I would say that because the fans instantly go, oh yeah, well it didn't. But then this is a little bit tinfoil hat time, but you know what I mean? Like that it's not psychological warfare. What's the word? You know what I mean? Just like it's
gaslighting, basically.
Yeah, kind of. But no one would ever know, would they, unless they were inside the club? So it's what you would say, isn't it? Basically.
Yeah. But you think about it. You think about any assistant manager or who has replaced a head coach within the club, so that the head coach or manager moves on and their assistant decides to stay at the club and take over the job. They've been part of that regime for whatever length of time that manager's been there, but you'll get most of them will come out in the first interview and go, well, I want to do things my way and I've got some new ideas about things. And you're like going,
yeah,
I'm sure you had to. You have to split the different routes. But also I'd say there's a self-awareness piece there from them, which I'm really happy to see, because they're very aware of what's being said about them. And they understand what's been said about the previous regime. They have alluded to it in lots of different ways. They have alluded to little bits and pieces. I mean, as Paul said, the credit card bill being, thrown out as a key point as well that they've referenced. I mean, Paraag doesn't reference that unless he knows there's a sensitivity around that and people want to know that wasn't them. They've said things about the stadium as well, about in the updated interview that he did today. Sorry, we're recording this on Thursday, by the way. I should have said at the start, but we're recording this on Thursday. But the updated interview he did about the Red Bull takeover. I keep saying takeover. It's not a takeover.
People will be panicking.
You're going to ruffle some feathers there, Joe, mate. I'm telling you.
I'm going to upset everybody, yeah. No, on the investment and in the short sponsorship, he referenced the stadium naming rights, but he also basically said last year there was other people out talking about the stadium going, Radrazani was out last year talking about he owned the stadium. It was his asset and he could do what he wanted with it. But in this little interview, he still manages to allude to the fact of, yeah, I'm fully aware of what happened last year with the stadium. That's not us. We're not doing that. That's not happening. Yeah. So I do think he's very self-aware. And then he's also very aware of how people view them over the last 12 months. And he can answer questions before they're even answered. And he did in a couple of things because he talked about the lone players in the interview, and I wanted to talk about that. But before I get to that, because Paul, I never asked you your overriding kind of feeling on the interview. Did you come out of listening to that or reading the snippets and thinking, yeah, this is okay? Or did you come out of it going, I have questions still?
No, you're always going to have questions, I think, of any owner of the club, because at the end of the day, they are custodians of a thing that we all love dearly. But it's what I have come away with over the past couple of weeks, and even over the past season as well, is that it's nice that we have owners that stay quiet and owners that come out when they need to come out, not because they think they need to come out and say something, because they just want to get the names into the press and everything like that. We probably won't hear anything from him again until there is another major thing that needs to happen, I don't think. And that's what I like about it. And that's what I got. What I got from him is that he was trying to be open without being too open. Yeah. That kind of thing. That's kind of what I got from it. Like what he mentioned about the players, what he mentioned, the whole thing about the trade-off and, having to maybe potentially sacrifice flair for a bit of experience, which tells me that he knows that we need a bit of a grizzled championship bastard in the team. And just that overriding, for me, he said the right things, but again, that could go up in flames really, really quickly. But I felt happy at the end of it because he's professional, and that's what you want.
Well, the question came up around Archie, and the way I took the Archie question, again, how Paraag Marathe handled the question was he was talking about every player, but he was answering the Archie question where he was saying, I can't speak about this. We just don't know. There's going to be trade-offs. You kind of read into that and think, if you could sell Nanto and Somerville and get the amount of money you needed in, job done, great. They're the 2 sacrificial lambs. You get the money in for them. Everyone else stays. You move on. You start adding people. But right now, he can't say that. And if it's a case that the money doesn't come in for those 2 players that they're hoping for, they expect it to come in, if it comes in at all, and a huge bid comes in for Archie that fixes that issue as well, then he's in a position where he possibly can't commit to that, and he can't say, well, Archie's safe, because look, we might need to bring in 70 million in transfer fees this summer.
That's just a
if nobody
championship
else
issue,
comes
isn't
in.
it, as well? If we're in a Premier League, it might be a totally different position,
Sure.
but because of the profit and sustainability in the championship, sometimes, well, actually all the time it happens every year. The best players from the championship get picked out and sent to clubs at a higher level, and that is the problem with staying in the championship, whilst a lot of people almost sort of trying to maybe cope somehow as well with the fact that we weren't getting promoted. We're saying, oh, I like the championship anyway. You like the championship with this team because we're so good, but if we hear a year on year, it's history suggests that your best players every single year will get picked and sent away. So ideally we could protect Archie by selling Nonto and Somerville, players who some people think didn't really want to be here at the start of the season, did their best obviously throughout the season, but I think what I'm trying to say is they'd happily take a move away, whereas Archie might be a little bit like, I want to stay at home a little bit longer. He's only 18. He's barely finished his studies.
He's also
not even allowed out past 10 o'clock at night. Why would you want to move anywhere else? Do you know what I mean? Yeah.
That's just the curfew, though.
Comment about wanting to play with his brother as well, hasn't he? He wants him and his brother to play in the first team.
Yeah.
Which should be...
Well, unless the Liverpool rumor comes to fruition and they both end up going there at the exact same time, he might get what he wants that way, but I don't think so. Kev, on the Archie thing, where's your head at with this?
I honestly think he stays, but I do think Paraag was, again, I agree with everything you've just said. He was coy on the issue because it could come, because all this is going to happen now within the next, 4 weeks, really, because I think the deadline for the PSR, like your accounts basically, is at the end of June. So all this is all going to start rolling. It's going to start rolling really fast. And if we can't get the prices that we want for Somerville and Nonto, say they're the 2 sacrificial lambs, but then we get a big £60 million bid in for Archie from rumored this. I mean, I could roll off 5 clubs that I've heard that he's rumored with today, and they're all huge on the continent as well. And you get a 60 million bid, but we need that money in before the end of June. Then he's just there, like covering his own ass, really, when it comes to stuff like that. Because I mean, we look at Radrazani, welcomed players that didn't even sign for us, welcomed them to the club, didn't even get on planes, and that. So he's just doing everything a little bit correctly. He doesn't want to promise something and then not be able to fulfill on it. So, which I do actually kind of like, and he doesn't want to tiptoe. He does tiptoe around it due to the fact is because he can't promise anything because of the situation that we're in. So I just want to put this out there. We're not skint by any means, are we? There's just these rules that you have to follow, and he's just going back.
He actually did make that point as well, didn't he? He did say, look, we've got money. Like, we're pretty cashed up.
We're fine
here. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's just the rules that prevent us. So he said
that hurts though, Max. That really hurts me though. We've got these owners with stacks of cash that can't spend it till you get to the Premier League.
10 years ago, this would have been a dream, wouldn't it? Really, you know, you just go out and come wherever you want.
I think he also got a dig in about Leicester and about some other teams.
He did. He said fairly, didn't he?
And he said, I think what he said was, my goal for this club is to always field the best possible, the best team that we possibly can within the legal rules of the game.
It's like you want us to be up to the limit at all times at PSR, be on that limit at all times,
which is
just so we're
competitive. That's optimism, and that's sort of shows that he really wants to progress this club forward as fast as possible by basically spending as much money as we can within the limits. Also, as a good little dig at some other clubs as well who haven't particularly been following those loose guidelines as have been treated.
Very loose in some cases.
Yeah.
The other big topic that came up in it were the loanies, the loanies that went out. Now, I've had a couple of people comment to ask on this, and it's fair enough, but I was under the impression, or the information that had been out at the time, was that anyone who'd signed an extension to their deal or a new deal last season, so basically any players that were signed last year, had this loan release clause in their deal. Diego Llorente signed a new contract before he went out on loan to Roma. He's been there for 2 years on loan. It turns out, according to Phil Hay, he's now saying that he believes what's coming back is 2 players that have the extensions, and that's Mark Roca and Jack Harrison. The remainder, he says, well, Phil Hay says, don't have these loan release clauses active next season. Now, we don't know for a fact. It's the information that's out there at the time, and that's what we're working off of. So, but based on that, Paul, thoughts on the returning players, what we do with them, and potential outgoings as well.
I'll tell you the one thing: the Aronson redemption arc starts now. I've always been quite bitter, and I don't mind saying it. I've always been very vociferous in my not hatred but disdain for the people that went out on loan. Some, I understand it to a certain degree. They have, being a footballer is a very limited career. You need to make as much money as you can. When you can accept, get all that, that's fine. The thing that I get annoyed at is disloyalty and basically wanting to jump ship straight away. I think the interesting one is probably going to be, I think, Woba, when he comes, how that's going to work, what's going to be done with that, because he's had quite a consistently good season at Gladbach. So it's whether or not he goes back there on loan, or if they put in a reduced offer for him and we just cut our losses. I think we're at that stage with Aronson. It's been, well, we all know that they've all said the same thing, that they would take a reduced figure for him. My thing is that anybody that doesn't want to be here and wants to go, just let them go. Just get them gone, get them off of the books. Because it causes discourse within the group. We saw what it did to us at the start of last season. We saw how that affected everybody at the start of last season and the mess that it made. The thing that was interesting that Paraag said was that we now have more control over that situation, whereas we didn't at the start of last season. Harrison can go and take his mother with him. As far as I'm concerned, I'm not interested. My thing is when the chips are down and you have the opportunity to really make a name for yourself and write yourself into the history of a club, and then you just decide not to do it. For me, just go, just get gone, go. That's why I have such an affection, and why we all have such an affection for Rutter, because he cares. He absolutely cares, and you can see that on him when he's playing. He cares. Yes, he's not been at it because of the injury and the surgery and everything towards the back end of last season, but he wanted to stay and put it right. And for me, the loanies, get them gone. But I'm telling you now, watch the Aronson redemption arc. It happens soon, starting.
I wouldn't be shocked. I think there's a very good footballer in Brendan Aronson. I keep going back to the same term, self-awareness. I just don't think he's self-aware enough to realise that the fans in England have said it to you. The fans in Germany have said it to you. The owner of the club in Germany has said it to you. And the manager in Germany has said it to you. You need to get more physical. You have to. If you're going to survive in top 5 leagues, you've got to get physical. I think a year in the Championship would do Aronson the world of good, getting kicked around the Championship. Like Nantos had lumps taken out of him this year. Absolute lumps taken out of him. Aronson would get that. Could Daniel Farke coach him to be a better player? Possibly, probably. And it would break him out of that Red Bull narrow system that he's so ingrained in his culture and his education in football.
Yeah.
But I'm with you, St. Paul. I don't really want to see anyone in a Leeds shirt again, because this side before self stuff matters for me, and turning your back on Leeds is, I always say, it's the same as walking across my flag. It's the same thing. It doesn't sit well with me. I just want you to give everything you can while you're here. I'll give limited players a pass as long as they care, as long as they put it in. But if you don't want to be here, to your point, Paul, just go, but go early, go quickly, so we can get on with things and move past and move on.
Well,
but
you had Rocker pimp himself out pretty much the half of the towards the back end of the season. So everyone just go, mate. We know you don't want to be here. You don't like it because it's a little bit chilly. So just disappear off.
Well, Rocket's bought a house over in Betis, so he's planning on staying there. That was his goal, was to stay there. I mean, even before it was confirmed, he bought a house. So he was making his bed already. But yeah,
I hope the ceiling falls in on it. But
his pyrite problems. Yeah. Mark Rocket needs pyrite problems. Max, what was your take on the loanee section of this and his conversations around that?
Well, I just wonder, how much does it affect our profit and sustainability when we've already got these? So let's take it from what Paraag said then. Okay, so we have this 190 million that a lot of Leeds fans are panicking about. You take off what, let's say 45 million for the sold players in January, and we've got to get rid of this 190 million by when? Is it
the end of their contract? It's over a 3-year period.
Yep.
Yeah. So if we sell these loan players or players who went out on loan at a loss, that then starts to make it rise back up again, doesn't it? Or do you get what I mean? Because you're selling them for less than you've bought them for. So
it depends on what's owed on the contract at that point. So you can still make, like, I mean, if you pay 25 million for Aronson and you sell him for 12 in the last year of his contract, but you've probably paid back the bulk of that 25 anyway, you might actually make a small profit in the 12 because it's whatever's outstanding versus the money that you bring in. As far as I understand it, I'm not a finance expert. I could be wrong.
No, so that's what was just confusing me, because if we were to sell them at a loss,
it goes down each year until they're gone. Yeah.
So
we've
I
had 2 years off them after we've paid all the installments at the end of the end of this month. So I think they've got 4 or 5 year deals, so they'll be half into their PSR like contract with that. So Aronson now would probably be, say, about 18 million come the end of the season, maybe down to like 14, and then so on. That's how it all works. So that's how it counts as on the balance sheet.
Yeah,
this is
someone like Llorente would be good for PSR because he signed a brand new contract, so that contract effectively starts at 0. So if we were to sell him for 5 million, even that's 5 million profit. Like that's great because he's in a different a new contract in a new phase. And then any of the players that brought on, like Somerville's pure profit, nearly Melier be pure profit. Like I wrote down a couple of numbers of players that Leeds could potentially sell if they had to. And in worst case scenario, if you got 30 million for Somerville and Nanto, right? Say 35 for Somerville, 65 million. Leeds will want 10, 15 from Melier. He's whether people like him or not, he is the championship Golden Glove winner this year. Has it? Says he was the best keeper in the league on paper. You get 15 for him, brings you up to 80, and then you're looking at possible, small chip-ins of Creswell maybe for 5 million, Gelhardt for 3 maybe, and Greenwood for 1, brings you up to 88 million. That's just on those players alone without actually.
That's not the lonely ones
like
as well.
James, all of them, Gray. So it's manageable, I would say, Max.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, isn't it? Because people panic about that number because, rightly so, it looks like a massive number. But when you actually dig into it and you see we can deal with it, but ideally we would get up straight away and then we don't have to deal with it as much. But yeah, I mean, in terms of emotionally and who those players are, get rid of them, because I even think you could see Aronson come in and have a really good season, but can we afford to do that with, or would you rather put, I know nobody's a known quality, nobody's a guarantee of a great player, but Aronson can, especially in the Championship, it might toughen him up, but are we here to make Brendan Aronson better, or are we here to make Leeds United better? If you get what I mean? Like,
unless it does both.
And that's when sometimes that's Bielsa, everything aligned to make players better and to make the club better. But there are some players who actively would drag you back a little bit. And that sounds horrible to Brendan Aronson. Like, I'm saying that he's that bad of a player. I'm not really. I'm saying that when you actually look at the way he plays and the way that we wanted to play, even under Jesse Marsh tactically, and trying to break forward and trying to get forward. And when you do that, like Daniel Farkas loves his counter-attacks, Brendan Aronson, the amount he would be carrying the ball and just fall over, and it just stops your counter-attack and you lose it and you go, oh, there's another counter-attack. And how dangerous we've been over the last season on counter-attacks. I don't want someone in the team who's going to drag Leeds forwards. As soon as he feels any contact, he goes down. And we've seen Championship referees a lot this season just go,
ignore that. Yeah.
Play on.
But that happened in the Premier League as well. The referees had sussed him out, and by after Christmas, they just stopped giving him free kicks, and he just fell on the ground an awful lot.
Yeah. I think he's got weights in his boots, because otherwise he'd float away.
He did have a good final 6 weeks with Union Berlin, or Union Berlin as it pronounced. That should be said. He did finish the season very well for them, but that was 6 games out of an entire season where he really struggled. Like, he really struggled. Two goals and 2. Put it in context. In the same league, Brendan Aronson got 2 goals and 2 assists. Max Fober got 2 goals and 3 assists. We'll just send it.
I had a full mouth of water.
Yeah. So good. Yeah, but that's to put it in context. So if people are going to go, well, it's a different league and different players and blah, blah, blah. A defender in the same division who had a team that was pretty comparable to where they were in the league, finished in the bottom half table as well, outscored you and out-assisted you over the course of a campaign, and you're a creative number 10. You've got a problem. You've got a problem there. But I do, to Paul's point, I could definitely see a redemption arc. I could definitely see Farke do something because there is skill there. And if you go back to the first third of the season in the Premier League when things weren't on fire necessarily, he was very good, especially against Chelsea. I thought he was decent against Liverpool as well. And Liverpool, actually, one point, Jurgen Klopp was quoted as saying he's a player he would be interested in keeping an eye on. That was in the very early parts of the Premier League season, and then it all fell apart spectacularly. Yeah. But there clearly is somebody in there.
He needs us. I wish he'd had a season under Hansi Flick. Have you seen the transformation photos of the players under Hansi Flick? Yeah, there was Lewandowski was fairly skinny, Leon Goretzka, and I think there was one or two others. And then you saw them 1 year later under Hansi Flick. They all built like brick outhouses, shall we say. They're all just like absolutely jacked.
I do think next season, and I've spoken about this before and I mentioned about it, it's slightly off topic, but just it kind of ties in with people having redemption arcs and everything. I do think that Farke spent a lot of the complete last season because of the lateness that he came in. I still don't think that was his squad 100%. And I also think that he limited himself, or he was limited in terms of how he could play and for the players that he could rotate. And I'm not trying to make excuses for him because that's not what I'm about. But just when you look at it in terms of how he does want to play, and you look at like the Norwich teams that he got promoted and everything, just the slight difference in the way that he plays. I think we could see a big difference in the way he plays next season as compared to this season. I think that we will have a plan A and a plan B, whereas this time around it was kind of a plan A and then a plan A.1. That's kind of how it felt a little bit.
It was almost a plan A and then a plan Z, which was put every single attacker on.
Throw everything on and see if it works. But it just, outside of the Norwich game, one of the games against Norwich, it didn't work at all last year. But to your point, Paul, I don't think you're wrong, because if you go back to the end of the summer transfer window last year, Matty O'Reilly at Celtic was linked. He was trying to get Matty O'Reilly, and that's an attacking number 10. He can also play wide, but he's a central player. And Amiri was in town, who's a creative number 10. So he clearly wanted actively
looking for a number 10, wasn't he? He was looking for his Todd Cantwell because he had his Somerville and I think Buendia and Somerville were fairly similar in the roles that they had in his Norwich team. As he would often play out on the left and cut inside and try and curl ones in the far corner, just in terms of his actual going for goal and scoring. I think
that's where Rutter will play next year, by the way. He's on that right and drifting in that Buendia position with a proper number 10.
But so let's just clarify for a second, because I know that there's a lot of people who have said, look, this squad was amazing. And for a championship squad, yes, it was brilliant. It's one of the most stacked championship squads a manager could have. Doesn't necessarily mean that it's fully suited to the manager that we have. People will go, but you can, any good manager worth his salt would have got promoted with those players. Yeah, okay, I take your point, but when you play a certain way and you've played a certain way that's worked over the last however many years, and a central key part of that is having a number 10 who is an out-and-out number 10, you're still going to miss that key element. It's like having a jigsaw and just having one little piece out and missing. You've got to have that creative number 10, because that is when you look at it, say you looked at a 4-2-3-1 on a piece of paper, and then you had that right in the center. You draw lines to every single player, and it links up all to that key point. And yes, Jorginho Rutter is an amazing player. He's fantastic for his age, but is he a number 10? He's played a lot better at number 10 than he did at striker, but that's not where he's been playing throughout the rest of his career. He's another player who's kind of been shoehorned in at a number 10 because people go, seems like he would fit there with his skill set. What you need to do is go, this guy is a number 10, put him in there, and hopefully, that fixes some of the issues.
I know a lot of people said it as well, and I'm just going to throw it out there, but we get a proper number 10 in there. You watch the difference in Paraag as well. We get a proper number 10. Watch the difference in Paraag.
But you got to look at lots of things. And Leeds have been a
I
club
forgot we still
that have done this for years, and this is square pegs and round holes. We've talked about it for years with the fullback situations that Leeds had, and get different players, a left back playing right back, a midfielder playing right back. We don't go out ever way to get specialized players in specialized positions at certain points, especially the front. Like we've been signing a number 9 for 2 years. You know, we bought Eddie Nketiah to replace Pat Bamford, knowing full well that Eddie Nketiah and Pat Bamford play very different strikers. That didn't work. We've had JKA. We've had that big German lad who modelled with his mum that I've forgotten about.
Lasoga.
Lasoga. That was after between Chris Wood and him, but yeah. Lasoga. And we've had Willie Gnonto was bought as a number 9. Georgina Rudder was bought as a number 9. Both not strikers. Both not number 9s. So we're still in the same position we were 4 years ago, trying to buy a number 9 to replace Pat Bamford. And it's probably the same in number 10. Pablo left, and Leeds didn't really do anything about trying to replace Pablo with an out-and-out number 10. They brought Brendan Aronson in, but he was pitched to us the year before as a box-to-box midfielder and not a number 10. And then he comes in as the 10. So this summer Leeds, to your point, Max, if they want Daniel Farke to get the most out of the way he sets his team up, they've got to go out and buy specialised players to play in these specialised positions. Wingers and wingers, 10s and 10s, 9s and 9s, fullbacks as fullbacks. That has to be the minimum to get the foundation level right. And then you can supplement that with players that can do both. That's fine.
Do you know what?
Like to the Georgina Rudder point, if we had a backup number 10 this year, we might not have struggled in the times that Georgie was off form. We could have replaced him with somebody else. But we couldn't.
Yeah. The Joel Peru, people have been going, oh, well, if Bamford can't be trusted to stay fit all season, then it should be Mateo Joseph that starts up next season. And Paul just mentioned Joel Peru still here. And I almost forgot about him. But what if Daniel Farke can somehow analyze that 4-0 win against Norwich over and over again, find out why Joel Peru was so good in that game, because watching him in that game, you would go, yes, that is the starting striker for a championship side who are going to win the league. Because the way he span off defenders, he ran the channels, he opened space for the other players. He was like perfect. I loved watching him in that game. I thought, oh my God, where has this guy come from? Why hasn't he played like that before? If he can play like that, then we've got 3 strikers that I would happily take into a championship season. Joel Peru, Mateo Joseph, and Patrick Bamford. You take those 3 all day, every day, if he's playing like that. I don't understand why it only happened in one game. I just don't get why that only happened in one game. But if he can replicate that kind of performance, I'm happy to not sign a striker and have him in there. Or if Farke's willing to use Mateo Joseph a bit more, because I think Mateo Joseph, out of all of our strikers, seemed to be the one who goes, I'm going to get on the end of this. And you can see that he's actually in the box. He's near the front post. He's near the back post. Whereas Joel Peru or Patrick Bamford are in the box. The ball gets cut across and you go, hold on, why is he still on the penalty spot? Why is he still on the edge of the area? So we've got options. It's just whether he can get the best out of them, and potentially, linking back this tangent to what you were saying, if we can get a number 10, it allows somebody like Joel Peru to go, do you know what? I don't have to run back into my own half and replicate Harry Kane ball, go and get it in the holding midfield role and then run back forward and not be there, because you've got a number 10 who will do that job for you, get the ball, drive forward with it.
That's a good point.
I want to see more out of Joel Peru, and I think we could potentially. I think he was brilliant.
I think the second season and another full preseason might give you more of that. And I think that this summer is going to be very. They're not going to bin him off. They spent too much money on him. They have to work with him, and he has to get better. And it's not good enough to just be able to say, "Oh, well, he doesn't press the same way Paddy does." He's got to learn. You're a footballer. Get better at it. That's it's that simple for me. Or to go and buy somebody else, which I don't think they will. And for me, Mateo Joseph next season, the conversation is a lot cleaner about whether he should play or not. He should be given a chance to start the season.
I think it's
definitely preseason.
It was a good sign, though, that he still managed to score, 14 or 16 goals?
Yep. Peru still scored goals. That's the main thing to think about.
He still scored that many, and we've all said, not sure. He doesn't seem to fit. He's not doing very well. He still scored that amount of goals. So if he is fit and he's doing well,
he's only 24. Like he's not.
I know. I think we tend to forget this, don't we? Like even when you look at Jorginho, even when you look at Jorginho and go, £35 million, is he still 20? I don't think he's 21 yet, is it? Or has he just turned 21?
Maybe 21, I don't know.
Some of these,
21, I think.
some of these players are so young that they've got. We said it as well, didn't we? Didn't we have one of the youngest squads in the Championship throughout the whole season?
Second youngest outside of Sunderland,
Sunderland, wasn't it? Yeah. So I mean, look, they're all another year older. All those players who've never played in the Championship before, or certainly have maybe only played in it once or twice, never been in a promotion race, they've got that experience now. Archie's got that experience. Jorginho's got that experience. Those players, Mateo, Joseph, they know what it's like, so that hopefully you have a repeat of what happened last time we got promoted, where playoffs didn't work out, but the next season you go
smash it.
In the words of Angus Kinnear, we're not dicking around with the playoffs.
Which is apparently he has said again. So we will wait and see. Yeah, Joe got his eyes on an email, and apparently in it says we're not taking around the playoffs. So fair play to him. We are going to move on because we're short on time here. In the last 15 minutes, I do want to talk about the big news that came out towards the back end of this week. That was this morning, Thursday, the announcement that Leeds United will be partnering with soft drink company Red Bull as their front of shirt sponsor and have bought a minority stake in the club as well. And I want to get people's initial reactions, but there was clarification that came out in the evening, which will change the conversation slightly. Paraag was interviewed by The Athletic in an exclusive, and he said, just to clarify some stuff, they're a minority stake in the club. They have no voting rights. They have nobody on the table. They have no option to buy the club in the future. So it's very clean from that perspective. There will be no stadium name changes. He mentioned last season messing around with the stadium stuff, the little dig towards Radrazani there, but that there will be no stadium name changes. There will be branding changes. Boost have quite a heavy branding in Elland Road. Pretty much the entire John Charles stand is covered in Boost Energy.
A lot of people have been putting memes and jokes about that. Boost energy drinks now that this has happened. Like,
yeah, Joe Wayman said it's just been binned off out of nowhere with no thank you or anything, just gone. But Red Bull will take over all of that. So you will have a very strong Red Bull presence in the ground. So from that perspective, it'll be visible. They will have a front of shirt sponsorship. There's no change into badges. There's no change into names, no change into color schemes. There's none of that is on the table. He said categorically not on the table, not up for discussion. They have discussed it with Red Bull, who basically said they're fine with all of this. They have no issue with this. So he said he was happy to see that. It's more in the larger connection. There's no connection between the clubs either, but he did say in terms of their data pool, their scouting network, all the player development work that they do, or athlete development work they do across all of their sports. That's a pool that Leeds will look to tap into. But Kev, coming to you first, I want to know your initial thoughts on this and where you sit on it now.
It's quite scary. I mean, it's exciting, and obviously from what's come out, it's just like there's no major investment, there's no saying what's going on, but it's just they've got this history, haven't they, of basically going in and wiping away histories of clubs and saying to clubs, you haven't been around for 50 years. You started the day we come in, and wiping away their history and putting down that they've been established, so I don't know, 2005 or something like that when they first did it. But from what Paraag Marate said, and he's saying all the right things. So, I mean, yeah, he's just all the right things are coming out from this again. It's just a lot of investment. Biggest deal in the EFL history on the front of the shirts. I just hope there's no red on it, but I mean, we've had that before, haven't we? So
there will be one bit of red on it. The word
probably.
Red.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably. Yeah,
or no words at all. Their current front of shirt branding has no Red Bull written on it. It's just the logo.
Yeah, true. That's all right then.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I do think, to your point though, Kev, and to your point as well, Jer, about the way that it was handled in the interviews and stuff, is that it's very much finger on the pulse. Paraag Marate has gone, do you know what? I probably need to give an interview about this. Or I wouldn't be surprised if Paraag had reached out to The Athletic and said, look, can I just clarify some things? Just as much as it could have been the other way around, because fans will be asking. But I do think he's got his finger on the pulse a little bit and gone, do you know what? This is what people will be worried about. Were they here when the badge got changed last time?
They would have been, because Kinnear was here, so they would have been.
Yeah, so I think
they know all about the reaction to that stuff.
Yeah, I think there's a little bit of that in there, is that they've gone, oh, do you know what? If they change the badge, people are going to go mad. How much they have their sort of sensibilities, maybe about what a football badge should look like, about what a football shirt should look like, especially a Leeds shirt and a Leeds badge. So I think there's a little bit of finger on the pulse with this, of going, do you know what? We need to clarify some things, because people are going to lose their heads if not. I did tweet. Let me just read this out to you, because this is my prediction, right? I've tweeted, I have a prediction. this summer, Leeds will tweet along the lines of "new badge loading" or something like that. Leeds Twitter will have absolute head loss, thinking that it's going to be a Red Bull Leeds badge revealed, and it will be a new proper badge featuring the peacock, which is what we've think has been hinted with so much peacockery over the last year, with the kits, with the little badge on the back, with the patterns and everything. I think we're going to have a rehash of an old badge and have a nice new peacock badge this summer. But I think the way that football clubs do, they'll tease it by saying new badge loading or something like that, and people are going to lose their marbles going, you said this wouldn't happen.
Or whatever you do at that point, it won't be as bad as what people think it's going to be. So if you put that new badge loading, everyone's going to automatically assume the absolute, and so then when you put it out
with a can of Red Bull next to it as well,
it'll be better.
Yeah. So they might use that to their advantage as well, to be fair.
I think they're sensitive to this stuff. I think they get this. And that's definitely on the Wilson line of social media humor, that he'd be likely to do something like that. And I'm okay with that. And I'm here for a peacock badge as well. I'm all up for more peacocks.
So I've never particularly been massively keen on our current badge. And I do like the older circular badges that we've had on the 90s Thistle Hotels kits and things like that. So I'll be looking forward to that. But sorry, we were talking about Red Bull.
You are?
The Thistle Hotels kit was unbelievable. Love those kits. You remember that one that came out that was kind of the really kind of sort of retro style Thistle Hotels that first came out with the LUFC and just the way. Oh, that was so nice.
Had the small badge over the Essex logo, and then there was I loved the traditional LUFC. I know it's not cool and not brandy, but it's still my favorite. I never loved the smiley badge. We're going to have a complete tangent here now, but I never loved the smiley badge. I wasn't a huge fan of the 90s one either, the big flower, because it was just a big white rose and there was nothing fancy about it. The white rose.
I quite like the Yorkshire rose.
I did like the shield. I kind of hope they keep the shield because my entire channel logo is based around that design, so that needs to get reworked if that happens.
Because it's still associated with everybody's last 20 odd years of Leeds, isn't it? So
every badge Leeds have had, bar one, has been crap. Like the era surrounding it has been mostly filled with disappointment or false promise, and then that. But there will be a badge change. I no doubt they'll change that badge at some point. Angus will definitely want that change, but they'll want to do a proper consultation on it next time before they go and do something. It'll be a lot more marketing-y and more brandy than what we've currently got. But I know that they're very keen on the words Leeds United being seen and not LUFC, because if you don't know what LUFC is, seeing that doesn't do anything for you. But when you see Leeds United, even if you don't know what it is, now you do. You know, so they have that thought about it. But Paul, on the Red Bull stuff, we were talking about identity. Were you fearful of the stuff when you saw it first this morning, or was your initial reaction positive?
Well, I saw bits and pieces about it last night, and I thought to myself, well, it's going to be interesting, whatever it is that they're going to do. Obviously, everybody has the concerns with Leipzig and the way that that's gone, and just the complete annihilation of a club's history straight away. But it was interesting to see that they were very, very keen to point out from the start that it's not changing the brand, it's not changing, X, Y, and Z, everything that everybody's kind of uncomfortable about. I mean, as soon as it was announced on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, everybody it was like a dumpster fire. And oh my God, I can't believe you've done a red. Do they not understand the history of this club? And well, we had Red Kite as a sponsor for a little while. That was fun.
32 red for a long time.
32 red as well. It's just, there's that, I don't know. It's kind of like people have this kind of faux outrage when it comes to that sometimes, that they have to get on the bandwagon and shout and scream and be annoyed about it because that's what everybody else is doing. If you want to look at it from a commercial point of view, it makes so much sense, especially if it is on shirt sponsorship and just a slight stake in the company. And if you look at it from Red Bull's point of view, in terms of a big club, we're a massive club. The fan base side of it, it's worldwide, it's well known. It's this, like you said yourself, Joe, the stuff that we can tap into, the fitness side of stuff, obviously the Red Bull F1 team and the fitness stuff that they have to go to. The scouting network for Red Bull is just ridiculously good.
Performance analytics is huge with them as well.
Absolutely everything. So from that side of things, to be able to tap into that, and now that we've had the the kind of the quote unquote confirmation, if you like, from, I nearly said Rads then, but that would have been a Freudian slip. But the confirmation from Paraag in terms of it. Listen, then no stadium naming rights. We're not changing badges. We're not changing. There's no red's going to be absolutely anywhere, and that was made clear from the start that couldn't be. And they've still signed on the dotted line for it. And if the figures are to be believed, for an absolutely monumental investment from us for us, which financially helps us get around the PNS, so to speak, and allows us to do what we need to do, then I was slightly concerned, but I'm happy with it now. I'm fine with it, and let's just see where it takes us. I know LUST, Lust, the supporters trust, to formulate a load of questions to put to the club, so we'll have to see how that
already have been, and that's the thing. So again, this self-awareness piece, Prague's already come out and answered those questions in the Athletic. So LUST are going to ask him, what's the future of this? Are they buying in a small amount to take over in a couple of months' time? That's been asked by Phil Hay. They've said no. They're going to ask about the stadium naming rights. Paraag Marte has been asked about stadium naming rights. He's already said no. You're going to cover all of the historical stuff, and he's going to go there. No, already been answered. Don't worry about it. But I do think, and what is important, I don't want to diminish anybody else's concerns around it.
No,
they have got a history. We should keep one eye very clearly on them and what they do. We shouldn't just take it for granted that everything's going to be fine. But at the same time, I am happy to look at this investment on the face of things and the questions that have been asked and answered and go, this seems like a positive move. This is going to bring in 200 million over a 3-year period, potentially 260 million over a 3-year period. It's a huge brand. It brings global awareness as well because of everything you get with that. And then there's the mass amount of connections Red Bull have from other potential sponsors as well that could come into this as well. So,
and other potential Red Bull clubs with players. We've seen players move between Red Bull clubs over the years, haven't we? And the way that sort of system works, the clubs that are in almost a family of clubs, we're not owned by Red Bull, but there is that association there now, isn't there?
Well, they've been clear to say there's no association between the clubs.
No, I just mean in terms of the fact that they're owned by the same. They're not owned.
Make negotiations a bit easier, Max.
Yeah, they have contacts. They go, do you know what? We can put you in contact with that club. It's in you. Tell the other club it's in your best interest to negotiate with Leeds. Do you know what I mean? Like it opens doors at least. Yeah, in terms of making signings and things. Not that we need any help getting Red Bull Salzburg players.
But the other thing that it does as well is, and it's one of the things that I think Paraag has been quite keen to talk about, is obviously the stadium is old. It means that the revenue streams that we can get within the stadium aren't brilliant and up to date at the moment. And this just opens another avenue for things like having a day with, I don't know, like the Red Bull F1 team turning up to Ellen Road to come and do an event day or something like that, or for Red Bull sponsored mountain bike riders, people like Matt Jones, stuff like that do all of that. It just opens up revenue streams all over the place.
You're missing the biggest one, Paul.
Go on.
Halftime monster trucks.
Oh, imagine the groundsman just has an instant heart attack.
Oh Jesus! Oh, here we go.
The pitch is just like,
let's go.
Years of work.
15 minutes.
But
you know what? I think
that would go with it. That's just positive for the club. And, like you said, you don't want to diminish people's kind of worries and concerns about stuff, but you kind of have to look at it from a business point of view. We need to be doing more than just match day revenue and stuff like that. There needs to be other things that we can do that can be done at the ground or done in the city, stuff like that. And this does that. This helps bring that on board.
Yeah, I think so. As I said, but the concerns of people, they should be noted and they should be things that we keep an eye on. But I don't want to be doom and gloom about everything that happens. And yes, it's Red Bull, but I mean, realistically, in terms of big money coming into your club, and like this is going down the route, if Red Bull ever did buy you down the road, unless you're being bought by an oil nation, you're not competing. No. And there's very few of them. And there's very few, and they're already bought in. So what's the next big step? Like, where's the next rich billionaire coming from? Paris Hilton. There we go. Sorted. Yeah. But it's
by
this
the way,
global exposure that you get from this, and they're leaning into this, the celebrity factor. Now it becomes a joke after a while if you're not successful and if you're floundering for a while and you've got all these celebrity owners and stuff and it's not working. Then it becomes a bit of a laughing stock and a joke. But that hasn't happened yet. And I think as long as it's going in the right direction, as long as the noises are positive, as long as Morata continues to be open, honest, and upfront with stuff and isn't just waiting for the reaction to hit online, is like, that's going to get a reaction. I'm going to do an interview with the Athletic and clear it up before it ever grows legs. So as long as that keeps happening, I'm okay with this. But at some point we do need to open the doors a little bit and go, we need to push on as a club. And we move. The longer we're away from the Premier League, the bigger that gap just continues to get. And it was already pretty big when we were there the last time.
The one thing that is clear, sorry, Max, the one thing that is really, really clear, that as sure as night follows day, and as sure as the sky's blue and the grass is green, Leeds fans will always see or seek out the negative in any situation, unfortunately, because that's just the way some of them are programmed.
We've been burnt. We've been burnt a lot, to be fair. And that is there because of that.
Of course. And it's sometimes, it's always that minority of people that will shout the absolute loudest. Yeah. I've seen some incredible takes on Twitter today that just make you go, stop sniffing glue, because it's really not helping you at all.
Stop reading a one-line headline and reacting. Yeah. Go and watch the thing. Go do a bit of research. It's the same with the amount of things I get tagged in on a weekly basis. Going, this player, and it's like, that's come from Indy Kalia. I mean, the chances that that's true is slim. Do you know what I mean? But it doesn't take long to go and find out if that's true or not. Like, you can start looking that up in the last 24 hours. Type in the name, see what comes up. There's ways around that. If you want to be smarter, use Copilot, get an AI. What's been said in the last 20 minutes about this, bang, you'll get an answer back. Like, there's ways to do your own homework on this as well. But I think sometimes we're so primed as a fan base to expect the absolute worst. And usually it comes in floods when it does come. So you miss out on promotion. Then you're going to find out that Archie Gray's being sold and Leeds are selling to Red Bull. Disaster. Like, the world is falling in.
I think there's a certain level of a certain level of pessimism and sort of cynicism about this deal because it's Red Bull and because of the history they've got. But if you actually took Red Bull's name out of it and you put anything else on it, look, you've put Will Ferrell. Okay, Will Ferrell coming in as a new investor, and Anchorman's going to be on the Leeds shirt with a big mustache underneath it, and he's going to be giving us 300 million over however many years. Then you don't go, oh no, this is the worst thing in the world, do you? You go, like, look, we're going to get a load of money. It's a new investor, but because it's Red Bull and what they've done to other clubs. But like you say, all you need to do is look past the headline. And that's why I also want to give a lot of credit to Paraag Morata, because people do just look at the headline and go, no, this is happening. This is happening. He has put the resources out there for you to find the answers to all of your questions. They basically have done, this is happening. FAQs are here. There you go. Yeah. Go and have a little read of that. Have a listen to his interview. Whatever it needs to be, and the answers to your questions rather will be there. So the homework's been done for you. You just have to go and read it.
Yeah, hear things out. I put a couple of. I did it to nearly put a trigger warning on my video this morning. I put a comment on it pretty quickly to say, before you react, listen to the whole thing. All your questions are answered. Just listen, because people did. The second they saw it, they were like, "The kit better stay white." And it's like, it's covered. It's covered. Relax. It's covered. You know. Just before we wrap up, last thing before we wrap up, Paul, are you positive about this? Are you happy where we're going?
Yeah, I am. I think for the first time in a very, very long time, we're actually being run as a proper business. And I think for me, like you said, you don't want to throw everybody's concerns out the window, but you play a watching brief and just keep an eye on for things like signs and stuff that are happening. But we're being run, and I don't want to make it sound soulless, but there's the element of it being a franchise business. That's how we're being run, and it's being done professional. I expect us to do like the transfer business and bits and pieces and stuff like that. I expect that to happen early this time around. So we'll just have to wait and see. But overall, I'm more than happy at the moment. We're hearing the right signs, we're hearing the right signals. That's the main thing for me.
Max?
Yeah, very similar. I mean, this is the good thing about Paraag coming out and saying these things. Like I just said, he puts your mind at ease a little bit. Obviously, people can make up their own minds on whether they believe him or not. But then you do get into a little bit of like you kind of just upsetting yourself for no reason until you have seen otherwise. There's no need to be suspicious. Like keep your eye, like Joe says, keep your eye on it. Listen out for things if you want to. Ultimately, whatever we think, say, or do has no impact on what decisions the club's going to make as individuals. But obviously, if it needs to be, and if something does happen, that's when everybody comes together. So if you've got a lot of concerns and questions about this, the resources are out there to go and find them. But also, if you look around you and not everybody else is panicking, probably not time to panic. I think we're going in the right direction. We've got an infrastructure now that seems so much better. I mean, something we talked about at the start of the season was the fact that we are now hiring people in departments that weren't even a thing before. Yeah. We've now got heads of departments. We've now got separate business, a hierarchy set up so that everybody has to go to their higher up. And eventually, if it needs to get to Paraag, it does. But you know what I mean? It can be dealt with. And it just looks, when you look at it as an organization, like Paul says, as a business, it just looks so much more professional now. It just looks so much better now. So, but it's only been 1 year. It's only been 1 year of that. And look how sort of smooth everything went last season. Take the things on the pitch away from it, because obviously we had a very good season. But if you're just looking in the background, apart from the first couple of weeks of the season, didn't really hear of any issues in the background whatsoever.
No directors starting fights with fans in the director's box. No one shouting bastardo across a group of fans. No, all pretty calm.
No, that's what I mean. So yeah, and even when there was stuff like that with the contract disputes and Sinistera, and obviously trying to get his way out and being courses of legal action potentially on the table. We don't know the full details of that, but it seemed to be dealt with professionally, and we were basically told we had to get rid of him. Sorry about that. Let's get on with our season with the players who do want to be here. It was all dealt with nicely, tucked up, nice little bow, shoved down a garbage chute, and then move on. Back again. So I'm happy with the way things are being run at the moment.
Great. Folks, we're going to wrap it up there. You can check out Max on Leeds lately, linked down below. If you're watching it on YouTube, if you're on Spotify, or if you're on Acast, you can check it out in the comment section there as well. Paul at Leeds Therapy, if you want to check out Paul's daily stuff, it's available there as well. And again, link below. And Kev at Leeds House and Not Another Leeds podcast on Fridays. That'll be linked. There will be an overrun for this when it does go out as well. That will connect back to the Not Another Leeds podcast for Friday, because it go out an hour before them. So we're going to connect the two together. So to give the lads a direction. So if you're watching this on the pre-record, you can head there next if you want to, and then check out all the lads' content, give them subscribes and show some love. And we'll be back next week for more podcast stuff, and I'll be back on Mondays for more Leeds news. And we'll chat to you then. Lads, thanks very much as always. Talk to you soon.
Thank you.